Greetings, mind crafters, and welcome to another, what I hope to be a stimulating conversation today. Another Minecraft conversation. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I am super pumped to talk about money and its connection to our lives, really. Because the only meaning anything has is a meaning we give it, and money has way more meaning in our lives than I think we are aware of. Interestingly, talk about an impulse. I'm thinking of good impulses because good impulse can be, negative, like actually like reckless spending for one. I struggled with that a lot in my younger years. And impulse can be just a spiritual grab it by the ass and run with it situation, which is what this is right now because it's a beautiful fall day here in northern Vermont, and my husband's downstairs watching a movie, and I'm up here with Giovanni, the golden retriever. I thought, wow, I'm just so inspired to do a podcast. I didn't really have a plan for one. And then I kind of just flipped open my Simple Abundance book, which is by Sarah Von Brednek, and I just listened to her interview with my dear friend Oprah. Again, Oprah's not aware we're good friends, but we are super tight. And wow, I did not know that about Sarah Von Brednek. And that came, I heard that, I just listened to that. Actually, I don't even think it was a week ago. It was this week. And I opened this and landed on this book has got like a little affirmation kind of chapter for every day of the year. And I landed here. So go figure, the statistics and the 364 other choices than the one I just landed on. I think that's pretty amazing. And this particular topic has been on my mind. And when I was out in the woods this morning with Giovanni, this is what I was sort of praying on and thinking about actually, because I'm working on a lot of projects and they're right on the cusp of something happening with them, but we've invested a lot of money and there's not a lot of return yet. And I was just kind of having a talk with God about it, and it's kind of wild that I just flipped to this. So that's how the universe works. So anyway, Sarah Von Brednek talks about. She starts out with a quote, like as she usually does. The problem of money dogs our steps throughout the whole of our lives, exerting a pressure that, in its way, is as powerful and insistent as many other problem of human existence, and it haunts the spiritual search as well. And this is incredible because if you've ever heard the interview with Oprah and Sarah, wow. I mean, Oprah's sort of talking to her about, I forget the actual title. I think the title for the book they're talking about, not Simple Abundance, this was way after. I think it's called Peace and Plenty. I could be wrong. I think I'm right. But basically, Sarah took a big fall, not a physical fall, but a financial crash. A financial crash. And she was wonderfully honest and courageous with sharing um, sort of a lot of the self-value issues that were involved in it. And I don't think she ever, I'm not sure she used the word codependent in the talk, but a lot of the behavior she was describing, and in no way am I judging her. I love her. I haven't met her, but I love her, and I think any of us who have lived a certain amount of years can relate to being vulnerable and to, going against what your best thoughts were sometimes. And anyway, she's lovely. I hope to meet her someday. And she was so honest about the crash and how how it really had to obviously pointed her another direction. Her this book that we're talking about right now made it sold 5 million copies, I think, here in the U.S. and like three in another country, and four like millions. And so if she made at least $1 per book, right? At least there is, she was doing quite well to the point that she purchased Isaac Newton's chapel for herself to write in. I mean, she was living large. And then I don't want to get into it too much because it's not the whole purpose of this conversation. However, it certainly fits. And then she kind of talks about very vulnerably, very courageously, very honestly about the gradual crash, the not so good relationships that kind of were intricately related there, and then spiritually how she bounced back. Because when we have contrast on that level presented to us, you better believe there's going to be some growth and a whole lot of meaning. And then Sarah's book Simple Abundance, which I would strongly encourage it for anyone. Sarah does specifically write to women. So you're going to have that lens if you're male and you read the book, although it does, uh, personally, I don't know what it's like to be male. I think if I were male, I would still get a whole lot out of it, a whole lot out of it, because this is just the majority of her book is about just meaning and purpose and value and worthiness and simplicity, authenticity, savoring things, and anybody can get something out of that. But she talks about this particular money and the meaning of life, as she says we're going to talk about this. I think she has a couple more after this one, because she does things sometimes for a few consecutive days. Says we're going to talk about how we accumulate it, spend it, save it, and squander it, lust for it, worship it, worry about it, work for it. And then she says, like success, money is an emotionally volatile issue for most brackets women. I'm saying brackets in case you're male. It's probably the most complicated relationship we have, and the one that most controls our lives because we let it. Amen, sister. Because we let it. All right, and so Sarah continues and she says, our lives are hell not because money is so important to us, but because it is not important enough, insists Jacob Needleman. So he was the gentleman who had the quote was from up top that I started out with, or Sarah started out with. Let's just read that again. Our lives are hell not because money is so important to us, but because it is not important enough, insists Jacob Needleman, author of The Illuminating Meditation, Money and the Meaning of Life. If money were more important to us, we would seek to understand its impact and how it influences every aspect of our lives. 100% true. And I'll tell you, this is amazing to me, and I'm not wired for lies, so I tell you the truth. The way I started out the podcast with, I was walking in the woods this morning with Giovanni. I have my little prayer routine, which I do, and then I start just having a conversation. Sometimes I just breathe. There's this rock by the second beaver pond where I sit and just breathe and just mindfully take in the morning mist and the gorgeousness in front of me and all that, and breathe. I just breathe. And other times I'd have an outright conversation, just talk out loud. There's nobody in the woods where I go. Rarely do you see another human being, just wildlife. So I was just talking about this and saying, okay, help, 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 God, because and we're in a good place, my husband and I, though we took a business loan from me because I'm doing a passion project right now that I'm just thrilled about. And that said, we've invested quite a bit in it and launched it. Now it's currently mid October, and we launched it a couple months ago. And I've had to stop myself from, watching how it's doing, and I'm really excited. I know that it takes time, and I will tell you the straight up truth that the good Lord gave me a lot of gifts in my gift bag, and patience is not one of them. And so, because I'm aware of the brain and how it works, I'm aware of worrying being practicing anxiety, and I'm aware of uh, scarcity thinking and what it means to think deprived thoughts leads to deprived feelings and lack, and that just attracts more of it. I'm aware of all that stuff, so I was trying to head it off at the pass because it was trying to creep in there. It was, okay, now we've got loan payments that are for us, significant, and it's going to be well worth it in the end. I'm telling myself there's a Mindcraft online course I just kicked out, and it's actually not out yet. It'll be out this week. An anxiety webinar that's only $30, and I'm having this whole conversation with myself. Just breathe, 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 because and again, I did not plan to do this podcast today. I literally flipped this book open and landed right here, which is wild. And so this is what Jacob Needleman is saying is really true. We and worrying in general doesn't get us any place. And so, worrying is just rehearsing anxiety. It just brings more. And we've talked about the worry circuit so many times in Mindcraft because, it's really pretty much one of the foundations, right? Because thoughts come first, followed by feelings, followed by actions or behavior. So we cannot feel anxious without thinking anxious thoughts. That's neurologically impossible, right? So again, I'm aware of all this. So I was like, okay, stop it, stop it, stop it. And still, it was really trying. Those intrusive voices were really trying. your business has been launched for 2 months and, you haven't sold much yet. And it was really trying. And it took my whole, kind of visit to the woods this morning to keep that at bay because that fear-based thinking about money and concern for, long term paying off the loan and things like that were trying really hard to wiggle themselves in there. And I just wanted to share that. And Jacob Needleman talks about that. He says, we people sometimes, and they say this, and oh gosh, I listen to so many podcasts, and there's one by a very affluent person. I listened to her. I've listened to her say that same episode probably a dozen times because it's just so good. That people, and they say, "Oh, I don't care about money. I don't." That they somehow they're translating that into that makes me a good person or something. It doesn't, because to not care about money in a way is really kind of reckless. It's not a statement of I'm a good person. And also money is very much how we spend money. There's so many books on this. How we spend money is very much related to how we value ourselves, because think about it. Our life minutes are our most valuable commodity, right? Our life minutes, each minute we breathe all day, this gift of a day we have today. So when we're exchanging money, we're exchanging our life minutes, is really what we're doing. If we go to get a haircut, we're exchanging our life minutes for their life minute, like, because I earn money using my life minutes, right? I'm taking that money that represents the life minutes that I use doing whatever teaching, let's say, and that time's already gone. I mean, I love doing it. Let's say it's already gone. So here you go. Here's the money for the time I already spent, the life minutes I already used. And I'm giving it to you for the life minutes you're spending on me right now, cutting my hair. So if you look at life minutes, it's an exchange of life minutes. That really amps up the meaning of money. It doesn't mean somebody's shallow, and I mean there can be people like that, and that they're horrible. Because no, if you're valuing your money, you're valuing yourself. It took me a very, very long time. I'm just being truthful to finally get that, because I really struggled with this whole concept definitely through my 20s and probably halfway through my 30s, just not getting why I was spending so recklessly, and also the ADHD, which I call the fast mind, played a role too. But truthfully, if I'm honest, it was because, and I am honest, I was not valuing myself. So I therefore wasn't valuing the money that I earned. It was like water. I just didn't, and I didn't make that, took me so long to make that connection. So, I mean, it's kind of gradually happening, but it took so long for me to really pass the quiz. Really long time. So then Sarah continues. She says, in October 1967, Jacob Needleman, a mild mannered college professor of philosophy and comparative religion, wandered into a San Francisco boutique that sold spiritual memorabilia. A beautiful Jewish prayer shawl caught his eye, and he decided to buy it. But the shop manager refused to let him pay for it with a personal check. Totally out of character, the professor threw a tantrum. It didn't work, but it did start him thinking about the role that money plays in our lives. And the answer is it plays a huge role in our lives for all different reasons. And so, with what I just shared about you about myself and all the shame that I had sort of accumulated, through my life about my spending habits from a kid, and also being, shamed about my wiring, my fast mind wiring, only because of that back then. I can't fault my parents for that one, because people just didn't understand ADHD back then. Now called, for me, Fast Mind Club, especially if you were a little girl. They thought you had to have that Dennis the Menace look with a slingshot in your pocket, which actually I kind of did have that look, only I'm a girl, or was a girl, now a woman. But also, I really truthfully think that it was the perfect storm to have the fast mind wiring and just not in a place to see my own value for so many years. I worked at it on some level. I was aware of it eventually. This again, maybe my teens, 20s, and probably half, or probably at least halfway through my 30s, maybe two-thirds of the way through my 30s, bumping up against 40. I mean, I'm talking about gradual. It wasn't like the light bulb went on at 38 or something. But it really took me a long time, because those wounds from my childhood were so deep. I had so many messages of not being valued, not being wanted, by my own parents. And again, I'm sharing this just like I've done in lots of episodes, not to denigrate anybody, not to, blame anybody. I'm way past that now. I'm sharing it with you because hopefully to reach some of you, because this is a classic way to do a self-fulfilling prophecy thing with feelings of self-hatred and just feeling devalued. It is to rub yourself out financially because when my mother actually told me after that manic Bronx ride, when we went to that coffee shop in the Bronx. I know a lot of you heard this story before. She kind of proceeded to tell me how I should have been an abortion, and my grandparents wanted to send me to Europe, or not me, her to Europe, and to have the abortion, and she didn't want me born, and she was doing me a favor, and how she kept me alive, that when I looked back, and it isn't in blame. It's just helped me to figure it out. Figure it out with together with my wiring. That was part of what happened in my 20s and 30s. And again, back then she was doing what was in her brain. I'm not even going there because I've let go of that a long time ago. It just helped me to put the puzzle pieces together to figure it out. Like, wow, I was spending, and I usually didn't spend money on myself, actually, not at all. Spend it on the kids. I've always been very generous. It was not on me. I wasn't walking around with Gucci bags. That's not my style anyway, to be truthful. But no, I was fine way back then. I was financially, that was my reckless spending was an outward expression of my lack of value for myself. I couldn't see my own value just yet. So I was fulfilling that, like, in this subconscious way. I agree, I'm not of value, look, because the brain looks to reinforce all that stuff, right? So I would look for ways to reinforce how I was not of value. And my vehicle for that was money. And it took me a lot of years to figure that out. And, it's been quite a while. It's been a solid couple of decades. And I don't, that whole dynamic is long since gone. But wow, did it wreak havoc in my life. Again, all the way through my college years and up through almost probably bumping up against 40. And when the light bulb went on, what a hallelujah that was, because money really is an outward expression of how we feel about ourselves, because it does have to do with our life minutes. Okay, so then Sarah continues and she says, think of our relationship to nature, to ideas, to pleasure. He challenges us. That's Jacob again. Think of our sense of self identity and self respect. Think of where we live and with what things we surround ourselves. Think of all our impulses to help others or serve a larger cause, where we go, how we travel, with whom we associate, or just think of what you were doing yesterday or where you will be doing whatever tomorrow or in an hour. The money factor is there, wrapped around or lodged inside everything. Think of what you want and what you dream of for now or next year or for the rest of your life. It will take money, a certain definite amount. And I have to tell you, I just had an impulsive wave right now. I mean like a creative impulsive wave. Because again, that money thing I've got a handle on that now. But again, boy, it was quite a ride for a while. But anyway, I'm also part of a mastermind group, and this is a group of just amazing people, very successful, amazing people, all self-made. I have not met one who is, had sort of acquired some big inheritance and turned it into bigger. Not one of them is like that. They all have very, very real stories. Some of them involve some pretty heavy duty trauma. They're just the most, they're like, I feel like I'm surrounded by velveteen rabbits who, if you've ever read that book, they've like had their fur rubbed off. They've really had a lot of adversity, and they overrode it, and they reframed, they're resilient, and now they're just enormously successful and very humble and amazing. And I'm bringing this up now because I've been in this group almost a year, and it was so clear to me immediately that when I landed with this mastermind group, it was totally the universe bringing me there. It was a God thing, because they found me on LinkedIn. I didn't bite on it right away because so many people are constantly trying to get you to, they want to manage your YouTube, or they want to manage your finance, or they're constantly soliciting that stuff, right? You can't blame them. But this wasn't that, because I was so used to that, I didn't bite the hook right away. So then the main the main guy there, Ryan, I got back to him and he said, "Oh yeah, sure, I'd love to have a chat." And the reason I went back to him is because he didn't chase me down. So I'm here. I'm in this group almost a year later, and it's been such a God thing because I feel like I've found my people. I found my people. They're so authentic, and they are all about. I brought this up. Like, oh, she's on a tangent a little bit, but it rolls right back in. Stay with me. It's circling around. They are all about the self value, and we talk about that. When I go to one of these conferences, it's very positive psychology, mindset based, and directly related to money and business. But every single one of them, in one way or another, brings up the meaning of money as related to the self value underneath. And I wanted to throw that out there because of the context of the situation of the mastermind group. And they come out from all different walks. Some graduated college, some didn't. They they're from all over the country, and the fact that they are, not only do they talk about self worth and value frequently, the different podcasts and things that we share with each other are very often related to things like this. And so I wanted to throw that out there because that's on a successful level, saying, "Hey, I was in this place, now I'm in this place, and I'm doing really, really well, prosperity wise." And then Sarah continues, if it would have taken only $35 for Professor Needleman to obtain the coveted prayer shawl if he had cash in his pocket, but because he did not, the objective of desire over a quarter of a century later remains a vivid memory. And he writes, it was, in brackets, a beauty, fine, delicately knotted fringes, rich, deep, pure white silk. It was not to be his, but, in quotes again, in such personal, apparently trivial events, the likes of which are experienced daily by all of us, we may see what really lies behind our attitudes towards money. So the fact that he missed out on this gorgeous Jewish shawl because he didn't have 35 bucks in his pocket is kind of the point. And then she goes on to say one of the things we probably don't realize is how hypocritical we are about money. We want it, but we don't want to appear as if we do. Oh my God, that's so true. That podcast I just told you about, I don't know if it's Castillo or Castillo. If it's Spanish, we would say Castillo. Brooke Castillo, and she's a gazillionaire. And some people could. I was just saying this to my daughter's boyfriend just recently. People could really judge her if they got into just the if they got into sort of being attached to just to the shallow part of the story. It's not shallow. What am I trying to say? Like the money's a vehicle, I guess. You lose the whole thing because, and in my mastermind group, we have all listened to this a million times, and her whole the point she makes in this podcast about one of them that stuck with me is that she talks about her mother who had inherited a lot of money early on, and Brooke remembered growing up that her mother was always talking about can't lose the money, got to hang on to the money, got to that because she was so attached to losing the money, and that she didn't earn. I mean, it's fine to get an inheritance, great, but she was wrapped up in fear her whole life. And Brooke said, I swore I was never going to be like that, and she was determined to make her own money, become an entrepreneur because she never wanted to be so attached to it. And she says, if I lose it tomorrow, I'll get it back again. I have the mind, I have the personality, I have the experiences, I'll get it back again. And that's how she chose to live her life. It's just so good. I can't tell you enough. Brooke Castillo or Castillo, Castillo. I would say Castillo. So if you have a chance, I got a little bit on a tangent, but she's so good. Okay, so let's start over here. One of the things we probably don't realize is how hypocritical we are about money. That's why, because Brooke says it all the time. People saying, I don't care about money. Money doesn't matter to me. Well, it should. So we want it, but we don't want to have to appear as if we do. We fear and desire it in the same heartbeat. Professor Needleman believes that money is a force we must face in this is the 20th century because it's dated, in much the same way that sex was an issue for previous generations. What is what is undeniable is that money is the raw material from which we build our lives, whether we like it or not. Amen, brother. And I'll tell you, because I'm a fabulous 58 for another couple months, and I really have been pretty diligent about beating off the shame messages, because with the money thing, my whole life, I mean, I've just been battered to death with shame messages because of my impulsive spending, part of it, again, my wiring, part of it, lots of messages from growing up and things just said to me over and over and over again and things like that. And here's the deal, and I would say this no matter what we're talking about. So when those messages start, and they were trying in the woods, and I beat them off. Wasn't easy, but Giovanni and I beat them off. Is Here's the thing: you can't do what you don't know. Until I hit close to 40, I didn't get it. It was so deep that scarring from your own mother not wanting you to be born is pretty heavy duty, right? So just, and again, not in blame, just in a reflection of what I had to do to overcome all that deep, um, how would you like, kind of like virus, kind of like a virus in a computer. You have to get like antivirus or malware, right? And so until I got it, that I had viruses in my hard drive. I didn't know, they just kind of like ran wild because I was actually reinforcing them, because you cannot do what you don't know. We can't, no matter what it is. Then when the light bulb finally, I had that hallelujah moment. Again, it was gradual. It wasn't like a, all of a sudden thing. But when I finally got it and passed the last quiz, then I was off and running, because we can't do what we don't know. And then that said, once we become aware, my friend Dr. Dave says this frequently, once we become aware, we become responsible. And from that moment on, I have been, and completely written a new story. Which is, even though I guess I'm verbalizing it at this minute, I don't know that I have yet. So my entrepreneurial thread that's going on right now, I think, is part of that. And I'm happy as heck teaching. It's teaching at Champlain and everything. That I love teaching. It fills me up and over the top. And speaking isn't different. And when I do workshops, that's all. I'm an educator. So whether it's a podcast, or I'm in the classroom, or I'm doing a workshop for Champlain or some other university, because I speak outside of there too. It's all filling me up, and so that's good. And now this new entrepreneurial thread in me, with the online Minecraft course and the little workshops I'm doing, is also healing. And I don't think I've realized that till this minute on this podcast. So you just got that raw, that unfiltered thing, because healing my money stuff. I do make money with my salary, but this is different because I'm very creative, and I just, like Brooks said, I had the mind, I have the experiences, the personality, I'm going to do it. And then Sarah continues. She says, one of our difficulties is that too often we confuse spiritual yearnings with material wants. For instance, you long for serenity. You assume that serenity, then she talks about having a comma in your checking account. And she talks about, being able to pay your bills, with more ease, obviously brings more serenity. And also it can, which can also be solved more easily with a fatter paycheck, right? She talks about that the comma requires, sort of expending more life minutes, more of your creative energy, and also there's an emotional investment, which is definitely true with my Minecraft, business, creative passion project. That's what we're calling it, passion project. And she talks about, this redistribution of your life minutes. This redistribution of your life minutes, sort of subtracting these from the seemingly disposable segments of your life. So there's family time. We all have responsibilities, right? Family responsibilities, personal stuff, things we do for our spiritual growth, physical rest, leisure time, things like that. And so she talks about the more work, more pay, more stress, less serenity, no matter how much money you're earning. In becoming experts at quantity instead of quality, we rob our souls of real life. She has those in capital letters. Real life richness. This is also making me think of another resource for you, Greg McGowan's book, Essentialism, because he talks about, and also Effortless. His second book is Effortless, and we are so locked up in efforting and quantity, which takes away from these other super important areas of our lives, just like Sarah's saying, with friends, and for me also time in the woods, and time with my beloved Tommy and all that. And it's not about that. It's about quality. It's about the quality of what we're doing.